The America Party was just registered with the election board. Elon Musk is making good on his word after the big, beautiful bill was signed into law, stating that he is going to fight this. And one of the ways he's going to fight it is to start a new party. A party where Americans that are sick and tired of watching government spend more and more money are going to fight it. I was told about this party forming back in 2016, and I want to talk about that, but I'm going to tell you about some other things that are coming in the future and how I learned about it. Real quick, I want to throw a shout out in the wake of those horrible floods in Texas. Remember, emergency sleeping bag, a straw, a pure water straw, things that should be in everybody's little go bags in the back of their car. There's a link down below to the sale that the company's doing for Independence Day. All right. I learned about this third party forming in 2016 from a prophet named John Paul Jackson. Type 1 if you know who I'm talking about. A lot of people that talk about believing in God, believing in Jesus, they go to church, they actually 99% of them miss something really important that God set up a long time ago. And please don't get it wrong. Get me wrong. I am no preacher, but I'm going to teach you something that I learned a long time ago. There's this thing called the fivefold ministry. In the Bible, God talks about it. And good news, whether you believe in God or not, I'm going to show you something that's so logical, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, this makes sense. He talks about where he made some, pastors, some teachers, some prophets, some apostles, this stuff. And there's these 5 different like jobs, and one of them are prophets. And there are a lot of false prophets out there. There are prophets that are not false. And what I've noticed from studying all these prophets, because in the Bible, God says, hey, if you heed the word of the prophets, you're going to live a long life. Because he also says that God says in the Bible, he does nothing without warning his prophets first. So if you listen to his prophets, you know what's going on in the world. And John Paul Jackson is one of those prophets where I've noticed, all these little prophecies come to pass while they're alive, but then the really big ones happen after they're past, they're dead. I believe this is that humans won't turn them into gods. But one of the prophecies in 2016 was that a third party would arise in America. And he entitled it The Rise and Fall of the Political Parties. And he said he showed these things called prophetic headlines. And the prophetic headline was New Third Party Gains Ground. Now, when this was put out, Donald Trump was actually president, just started being president in 2016. And a lot of prophets get their timing wrong. I'm sure that a lot of you have followed people that I know that are prophets that have prophesied specific things. And they've, I'm friends with some of them. And prophets, when they get a word from the Lord, it feels like, and it seems like it's going to happen tomorrow. They get really fired up and they tend to get the timing wrong. And I have close friends that have gotten timing wrong. And doesn't mean they're a false prophet, but this party that's being pushed out, I believe you're going to see, this is the one that John Paul Jackson prophesied about. It's going to gain ground. One of the easiest ways, because a friend of mine said, well, this is Elon Musk manipulating government politics. I said, no, you have to not confuse the word manipulating with advertising. You see, when you have money to push out an idea to the masses, it takes hold because it's getting pushed out to the masses. When people hear things over and over again, they tend to believe it as truth. Some people call it brainwashing, some people call it manipulating. I think it's the separation of intelligent, rational people that can consider a topic as opposed to people that don't and they just sort of follow the masses. Type 1 if this is making sense. What I want to talk about is move past this third political party, because I believe, quite frankly, And do me a favor, type yes or no. Do you think this is going to gain ground? Do you think that Elon Musk has enough resources, money and resources? Type yes or no for this political party to gain ground. I personally believe yes, it is going to. But I want to move past this. I want to move into some other things that John Paul Jackson talked about, okay, that are very important. Because a lot of these prophetic headlines, if you just Google John Paul Jackson prophetic headlines, you'll find them, right? There's some pretty crazy ones, right? But what I want to get to is some financial ones. It says here, I'm sorry, this is I was on the wrong spot. Well, here's a couple things to think about. All right. Emergency supplies, right? Sleeping bag, water straws. These are things that I've always had. One of his prophetic headline is that demand for classic seeds skyrocket. I have not seen this just yet, but then another one, which we've already sort of went through, but I believe something else is coming. Food prices lead nations escalating inflation woes. Now, we've seen food inflation happen in the last couple of years, and I've been warning that I believe that it's going to get much worse, okay? That food prices are going to skyrocket. I just noticed a YouTuber, his name's Brandon. He has a prophetic channel. He's talking about beef prices rising. I personally believe that you are going to see food prices rise exponentially in the next couple of years. And this is why. China and some other countries have worked their way into our country to buy up land and processing plants for pork and other meats. They process them here in America using our grazing land, and they ship them off to their countries. They also sell them in our countries, giving the illusion that everything's fine. But I believe as this trade war intensifies, I believe you're going to see a self-detonation of these plants happening. And I believe you're going to see some short-term shortages, which are going to lead to long-term price rises. And the reason why I say long-term, let me give you an example. Eggs have come down in price. Everyone's seen that. But everyone's also seen eggs explode in price a year and a half, 2 years ago, right? Just like lumber, even though eggs have come off of their highs, they are still much more expensive than they were 3 or 4 years ago. Lumber is the exact same way. The reason why is because the public, when they get a slight reprieve, tend to forget how it was a long time ago. All most humans think about is what's right in front of them. They have which bias I'm completely blanking out right now. But my point being is that they really only think about what happened last week, what's happening today, and then they figure the next couple weeks or forever it's going to be like that, right? And so, not cognitive bias, but anyway, my point being is that I believe the food prices are going to get more expensive. Now, getting down to some more things, big regulations hit small banks. I believe that you're about to see a banking crisis in the next 3 years. It's already begun because the Federal Reserve has really fired up their repo facility and is injecting liquidity as of June 30th into the markets. Okay, we haven't seen this really in earnest since the 2019 lockup of the banking system all the way through into 2023, right? So another prophetic headline he talks about is credit markets freezing up. We have not seen that yet, but another one that he says, and this is why credit markets would freeze up, derivative panic hits global markets. We have not seen that yet. That is coming. I do believe it's coming during this White House administration. And the reason why I say that, and I've got to pick my words very carefully. You see, I've been warning about the fact that the other party that's not in control right now runs the money system. And they want to keep most Americans and, quite frankly, most humans just poor enough, but they're so entrenched in debt, they don't realize, they think that they're making something because they're driving a fancy car or they have a fancy house, but they're so entrenched in debt, they have to keep going back to the factories to produce the widgets that make the elite richer, right? They control the purse strings, and it would be very easy for them to cut off the purse strings and blame the current administration as we get closer to the next election, so that most people would be running out in the streets and rioting and saying we need some change because they're all going to blame the current administration. If this makes sense, please type 10. I believe this is incredibly logical thinking, and it's not because this is coming from me. I really do believe this isn't coming from me, and I'm trying to paint a picture in which this coming chaos you will start to see how it's forming, and then you're going to go, okay, I'm going to transform the way I act today to pivot and take advantage for tomorrow. You see, what I believe is coming out of my mouth, and I know this sounds crazy to some people, but I'm okay with it. This is a blueprint, a plan for how we're going to take back the money system. You see, as this other party, political party, cuts the purse strings and everything's melting down during this administration, holy cow, I did not expect to be talking about this. We're going to snatch up all the stuff. You know, we've been positioned in crypto, specific cryptos, and our wealth has been increasing. We have been positioned in gold and silver. Do me a favor, type what you have positioned yourself in the last 3 or 4 years since you've been watching this channel financially. What have you positioned yourself in? Is it cryptos, gold, silver? And we've also been getting out of debt. And so all those things are going up. The value of our dollars that we put into these things are going up. The amount of debt we have is going down. And as the derivatives bomb implodes, and man, I gotta work. You got to really be careful with your words in these things because there's AI watching all this stuff. And the derivative markets implode. The stock market starts to tank. As inflation's going up, housing is falling even faster. And remember, as interest rates come down, because interest rates only get lowered during really bad times, banks freeze up their lending. Okay, so it doesn't matter how low interest rates are. If you don't qualify for a loan, because the bank's only giving loans out to the highest tiered people, right? The people with the most amount of cash flow versus the lowest amount of debt, it doesn't matter how low interest rates are, right? Housing will still fall. This happened for a very short period of time in the year 2000. It happened in earnest from 2007 to 2009, 2010, and it doesn't matter. So you could throw away the whole playbook of what most humans think how money is created, right? And how wealth is created. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take our wealth that's going up in value and we're going to dive into the sectors that are collapsing. And you know who your competition is going to be? I know this is going to sound crazy to you, but your competition for buying up all the houses cheap and stocks cheap is going to be the political party that you demise. I believe the food inflation will come first. Credit will start to snap as more people stop paying their bills because, quite frankly, food is just getting too expensive. The derivatives implosion will occur. The Federal Reserve, at the behest of the current administration, will lower rates, and then we will attack. Ninja Nation will become wealthier than you've ever thought possible. That's the warning for today. If you got something out of this, do me a favor, type 100. If you didn't, then this is definitely not the channel for you. There's hard times coming, but what happens when hard times come? What do hard times produce? Strong men. And that's what we're going to see. The Economic Ninja is out.